remain standing for the national anthem.
Madam P.S., the Deputy Commissioner General of Prisons, the Commandant, as we remain standing, we can have one of the reverends who was appointed to come and open this forum with a word of prayer. Kindly move forward to the microphone.
Christ, we want to bow before you this morning, and we thank you because of your loving kindness upon us. Dear Father, we want to magnify you and adore you because of who you are and what you mean to our lives. We dearly, Father, thank you and adore you for being with us since Monday up to this moment. And now, Lord, we want to thank you even for bringing our guests to be together with us this day. And Lord, as we commence the closure of this ceremony, Father, we want to commit ourselves to you and want to pray that, Lord, you may have your way in this meeting. We want to pray that, dear Lord, every speech that shall be made here, Father, everything that shall be spoken, all the deliberations, all the discussions, Father, that, Lord, you may take charge. We really adore you. We magnify you. Thank you for the guests. Thank you for our peers. We want to thank you. Guide us, God, and bless us. This is our humble prayer in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
We may take our seats. Madam P.S. of State Department for Correctional Services, Dr. Salome Biako, the Deputy Commissioner General of Prisons, Mr. Kennedy Aluda, our Chief Guest, Mr. Murugu, the Commandant, Prison Staff Training College, Mr. Angus Masoro, staff from the State Department for Correctional Services, the section heads for the chaplaincy personnel, P.S.C. staff, my fellow chaplains, good morning. God is good and all the time. Madam P.S., we are happy this morning to have you around, to have come to close officially this workshop that has taken us 3 days. And as we come to the end of this, we are glad that you have come to grace it and to bless us and also to give us your advice, which we are going to take away to our stations, to our regions, in order to implement, so that this workshop may not just come out as a talk shop, but rather a place where we have been able to take away practical things that we are going to implement. And in order for me to proceed with the program, I want to welcome Reverend Dr. Wambugu, Reverend Wambugu, to kindly come forward and give an introduction to this sitting and also to the chaplaincy as a whole. Karibu, Reverend.
Thank you very much, Father Kimani, the Chief Guest, the PS, State Department for Correctional Services, the Deputy Commissioner General of Prisons, the Commandant, all protocol observed as earlier alluded. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Madam P.S., I commence by presenting a brief overview of the chaplaincy services in Kenya prisons. The prison chaplaincy work in Kenya commenced in the year 1957. The Kenya Prison Service provides the mandate for the chaplaincy services in accordance with the Prisons Act, Cap 90, Section 70 and 71, and the Kenya Prison Standing Order, Chapter 73, and other related statutes and formulations. The prison chaplaincy plays a pivotal role in supporting the prison department and the state department in various pastoral and ministerial aspects, including compliance of 4 sections, namely the Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, and SDA. The chaplains participate of offense in rehabilitation, and especially the nexus between the mental health, psychology, and religious interventions. As the chaplaincy, Madam P.S. and Deputy Commissioner General of Prisons, we look forward with anticipation. Please, Alice.
Let's give Level Dr. Abogo an applause for that moving speech. I wish to welcome the Commandant to come and give us a welcome remark, and also to welcome the chief guest. Welcome, Bwana Commandant.
Thank you, Father Kimani. The Principal Secretary, State Department of Correctional Services, who is here to grace this occasion today, our Deputy Commissioner General, who is also here representing the department for this function, our distinguished presenter who will be introduced to make his presentation soon after, my colleagues and participants, good morning. It is a great pleasure to come again before you to meet you as you conclude your 4-day training after a 5-day presence. Some of the objectives we discussed here on the opening have been met. And Madam P.S., one of them, which I suggested they should follow up, being members of the Kenya Prison Service, they should understand how chaplaincy came about. Apart from their own individual faiths and sectors which have developed over time, they should understand why chaplaincy in the Kenya Prison Service and why they are deployed where they are. I'm happy this one is well understood and also will be understood by the cohort 2. At this time, I also appreciate that the learnings that they have gone through will be tested when they go out in the field. And this we believe from their commitment, which we have had through their facilitators and supervisors here, that has been thorough and has been purposeful. At this time, they are all here. There are 519 of them. Apparently, one madam had to attend to a child who was ill, and she had to accompany the child to hospital. We wish them all the best. And a few minor illnesses here which were catered for by the facility medical provisions. At this time then, I'm also great to present to you this team, and we hope that you are welcome. You and your team, madam, and the team that has been here exiting today wish you the best of your experience at Prison Staff Training College. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, our Commandant, for those beautiful words and kind words about our workshop here. And of course, the hospitality, the peace, the tranquility, the security has all been assured because of the contribution of our Commandant. Let's give our Commandant another applause for that. Madam P.S., our Deputy Commissioner General, allow me to invite one of the course participants who is going to take you through or to take us all through a course appraisal or a course review of what we have been able to go throughout the 3 weeks, and whether we have really comprehended everything. I want to invite Fred Cameron from the Prison Staff Training College, Chaplaincy, to make a presentation on behalf of all of us. Welcome, Fred.
Thank you. The Principal Secretary, the State Department of Correctional Services, Dr. Salome Beako, the Deputy Commissioner General, the Commandant Prison Staff Training College, chaplaincy heads from prisons headquarters, all senior officers present, course participants, good morning. We thank the PS for accepting to grace this once-in-a-lifetime capacity-building course for the chaplaincy, and equally extend our gratitude to the Deputy Commissioner General of Prisons for ensuring that this course has taken off. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, sir. This course has been a well-rounded training program that was mounted for capacity building and re-energizing of the prison's chaplains. Madam P.S., allow me at this moment to provide a brief overview of what we covered during this week. We were enabled to cover a very important area which is affecting society today, and that is mental health and wellness. Through our learning and sharing, we discovered that sensitivity to mental health has been and is still a matter of great concern. The scourge of mental illness is a reality that we face day in, day out. The course has equipped us with the necessary basic skills and interventions of handling the broad spectrum of mental health and wellness. As spiritual leaders, we will always remain at the forefront of championing mental health wellness in our institutions. We were also taken through gender-based violence and sexual gender-based violence. Training in dealing with the prevalence of GBV/SGVB exposed us to understanding what the victims go through and the stigma that is related with this scourge. The importance of this training has provided us with the understanding of the need for empowerment, training, and advocacy when it comes to countering GBV and SGVB in the community, in our workplaces, and in our workspaces. Financial management. In realization that economic resources are scarce and at times meager, we were taken through understanding that we should always be prudent in the use of our finances because it is a key to satisfaction, both at work, in life, and as well as in ensuring an honorable life in retirement. We learned it's never too late. It is important to plan and also live within our means. Countering violent extremism. We learned more about understanding radicalization, and it became apparent and evident that anybody can be radicalized. It became too apparent that there are so many pull and push factors that perpetrate violent extremism. We identify a few. One of them is stereotyping. religious biases, tribal biases, nationality, political, economic, and social biases. Madam P.S., we as Chaplaincy have also been victims of being vindicated as sympathizers of extremists, especially because of those who are held in our institutions. It is regrettable, but we understand effectively that all caregivers, we are now better off in approaching this matter. On addictions, our course also provided us with an eye on understanding the adverse effects of various forms of addiction, be it drugs related to addictions, understanding and observing security protocols in prisons. During our workshop, it became apparent that there is a possibility of contraband.
So there are, but they are not. So to be able to carry out the mission of the officers that are looking up to you, to offer them, to provide them with spiritual nourishment, how are you going to be able to do that if you are broken or if you are not taking care of yourself? How are you going to be able to help the inmates? You know, how are you going to be able to help those people? And they are looking up to you. They actually depend on you. You know, they depend on you. So we look at you first, and then after we look at you, we're going to go to the next step, which is your family. Okay? So your family. Because when you go out there, you go home. The home is a place that should be able to rejuvenate you, right? That is where you should be. You rejuvenate at home. You know, you go home, and you go home in good time. You have your wife there, or you have your husband there, and because you have cultivated very good relationship with them, then you are able to talk to them. They're able to listen to you. You're able to, you know, tell them things, and you know, I have gone home now. This is an oasis of peace. So we will look at the family, and then now, finally, we will look at, you know, the wider, and family, we look at your immediate family and your extended family, and then we look at other, you know, your workplace, your colleagues, etc., etc. So we start with I start with the self-care. What you need to do to take care of yourself. And the first thing, you have to start with self-knowledge. You have to start with self-knowledge. It is not an easy thing to know yourself. As a matter of fact, we can even say that you cannot, there will never come a day when you can say 100% that I know myself. That day will never come. That you can say 100% I know myself. That day will never come. So it is a daily thing that we have to try and do, know ourselves a little better today than we did yesterday. Okay? So now, for us to be able to do this, we have to be like introspecting, like looking at ourselves, looking inwards. So, and this means we have to be taking time for inner reflection to understand your needs, values, and triggers. So you cannot do that unless you're taking time. And getting time for yourself to do this is not easy, because from morning to night we are bombarded with so if you're coming or if you're traveling, say in a matatu for example, they are playing music. So, for example, yesterday my hours and the course providers, the course is starting at 11. The course is starting at 11 p.m. to yourself. So stand in front of the mirror, look into yourself, into your eyes, and say to yourself, you tell yourself that will go to said. The boss said has to happen. So this is one of the things that what you believe. One day, this one maybe doing, just leave me, I'm just going to do my thing and I'll open this. So with this lock. And you know what? He leaned on the door. The door, okay, and cholesterol free. But I'm telling you, those are very, very harmful. So when you eat mandazi with seed oils, or when you eat bread, or when you eat, I don't know what else, you are not taking good care of your body. So what you should eat? You should at least eat eggs. Eggs are affordable. And eat as many as you want. Forget this thing of cholesterol. That one is a hoax, I'm telling you. Okay? Eat. Yes, I know. You know, because the medical industry makes a lot of money from statins. Statins are the medication for lowering your cholesterol. Okay? They make a lot of money. They are very happy. When you go to the doctor and he says, you know, the doctor has told you you have cholesterol, you have no idea what that is, but he tells you have cholesterol and in nutrition. So if you reduce the amount, whether it is brown or white, carbohydrate is carbohydrate, glucose, more vegetables, but I would say you eat more protein. You eat more. Emotions are very hard to process. Emotions are very hard to process. As a matter of fact, some of the what is called energy psychology, it says that emotions, as we store emotions as magnetic waves, frequencies. Emotions are frequencies, they are energy. So you know the way your radio has frequencies, electromagnetic frequencies. We also have electromagnetic frequencies, right? So, for example, a person can come into the room and you feel that the energy in the room has gone down, isn't it? Do you have that experience? As a person comes into the room and you feel that the vibes, as young people say, the vibes have changed. The vibes have changed, you know? Or somebody else can come and you feel now the energy has gone up because of vibrations. Now, I see like some of you are beginning to say, okay, what is he saying? You know, what is he saying? I'll tell you what I'm saying. Have you gone to a hospital, or have you seen someone in a hospital and they have hooked him up to some machines, especially with the heart, and you can see on a screen there something that is beeping, going up and down, right? That is a gadget or an equipment that is capturing the magnetic waves of the heart, say for example. And you can capture also the magnetic waves of your muscles or your brain. So these emotions are stored in our bodies as vibrations. And there are ways of removing these vibrations, which I will not go into today. But try as much as possible, at least express your emotions, you know, in a safe place. And I think that a very, very good safe place to express your emotions is when you are praying. When you are praying. When you're praying quietly, not when you're praying in a gathering, when they tell you to pray for food, and then you pray there for half an hour. Not that one. I mean the one where you are seated down somewhere, you're seated, and you're praying. Because you can tell that being that you're praying to, God, Allah, you can tell him everything, right? And he's interested. You can tell him, you know, I'm very, very, very upset. You can even use whatever words you want to use. I'm very, very upset because of this thing that happened. So I think that's a very good space to express your emotions. Again, that can combine well with the time we were saying it is time for your reflection. And then mentally, this is the other thing, mentally, you engage your mind by learning, by setting achievable goals, by finding meaning in your work. So learning, you know, engaging your mentor. And these days, anything that you want to learn is at the tip of your fingers, literally. It is this thing here, you know, it can teach you so many things, so many things. And you can listen to a lot of things when you're driving home, or when you're going home in a matatu or wherever, or when you're walking, you can put earphones in your head and you're listening to a book. Because a lot of books now, you can get them freely. Okay, you would be infringing on copyright rights. But as people say here in Africa, the people who have written the books, they have the copyright. But here in Africa, we have the right to copy. So, and as long as you're not making a business out of it, you're using it for your own use, you're not making money out of it, there are, I think, billions of books that you can get. And there are sites. For instance, if you go to a site called Library Genesis or Library Z or PDF Drive, you can get here whatever books you want. Okay? And then nowadays we have apps that can do what is called text to speech. So that book, you put it in the app and you don't have to read it like this. You listen as you do something else. So the mind, the mental is something that we have to do a lot, and then the spiritual. I don't know if I need to say anything about spiritual, because I'm speaking to chaplains, right? So everything spiritual, you know, right? So, right? Yeah. So spiritual, that one I think I will jump over it. And then another way of taking care of yourself, remember we are just still taking care of yourself, is having boundaries with time. So you schedule me time. So this is time for me to take care of myself, you know, because I'm asking you to take care of yourself, put aside some time to take care of yourself, and you have all these people to take care of. You have your families, and you have, you know, P.S., who might receive a phone call from His Excellency. Nothing is going to happen. But you have, for the last many years, I don't watch news. Psychology, well, not just in psychology, but you know about trauma, right? Now, you maybe also know that there is something called vicarious trauma. So vicarious trauma is, trauma is an event, an unexpected event that has happened to somebody else, not you, somebody else, and it has affected you. So you have, I don't know, a week, they haven't read the good book, which a good book is a message from the... So this is setting boundaries. Also, you do the same with people. especially those friends that their friends, they only want, they're friends with, okay? Trouble with my wife, trouble with myself. These things we don't say. So, usikufe kiume, usikubali kufa kiume. The other, my time, but caring for your spouse, this is the second area. So now you have taken care of yourself. Level, which is now caring for your spouse. So, that is one of the things. There's something called, there's a concept called psychological, more or less like therapy, okay? Or more or less like confession. In the confessional, when psychological safe space. This is, which brings me to the other point, that even as you are creating time for yourself, you also have time for your spouse. If you can, we stop complaining, which is called active listening. Active listening. As I say, there is a reason, a good reason, why we have one mouth and two ears. To talk less and to listen more. And you know also that our mouth, we can close our mouth, we can shut our mouth, not our ears. So this is a very good reason why we have two ears which we can't close and one mouth to listen. So active listening, you are not just listening to the words. You're not listening, waiting to say something, or even interrupting. Interrupting someone when they are talking is not very good manners. So you'll wait until they finish, okay? And then now you can speak. And best if when you speak, you ask a question, an open-ended question, to show that you're actually listening and you want to hear more with your spouse, or not just with your spouse, even when you're talking with the people you are doing your counseling. You know that counseling is maybe the counselor is listening 80% of the time and asking questions and genuinely wanting to know, genuinely shared responsibility, focusing on building a team mentality, not keep. One of the things that is disturbing us a lot, men, these days, is what is called the boss. You know, all the title deeds and all the cars are in my name. And I am the one who controls everything. You see, that is that era now is behind us, right? But we haven't realized that that era is behind us. We men haven't realized that the era of patriarchal era is gone. Because perhaps my wife earns more money than I do. She has more, I don't know if I should say this, she has more brains than I do. Okay, maybe not brains, but she is gifted differently than I. Okay? So I can't be the one making all the decisions. Granted, because of the relationship you have cultivated with your wife, there are things that she will refer to you, decisions that she's going to refer to you, she say, because you are the head of the house, you are the head of the family, so she's going to refer some things to you. But that is not because you are, you know, like the king. No, it is because of respect, and you also have got to show respect. And I know if you think of some of the businesses that are doing very well in this country, or that are very well known, they were actually started by women. What comes to mind immediately? Keroche Breweries. That was started by a lady. Makini School was started by a lady. Riara schools that are now even a university, started by a lady. So, and these ladies, they started and their husbands gave them support. You see? So even at home, this thing of teamwork. So it's a teamwork. You and your spouse, your spouse, maybe if you listen to her more, your life is going to change. And then appreciation. Expressing gratitude for one another often, especially for the little things. So you're appreciating your wife or your husband genuinely, appreciating her genuinely. That is something that happens a lot. There was a story of a mother who once, for dinner, she made some straw. She cooked some straw very nicely, and she put it on the table, and then they opened, and they say, "Oh, what is this? Straw. Like straw?" That's what she had cooked. And then she said, "You guys, I didn't know you would notice, because you never say anything about my food. And if you say something, it is about, oh, this food is overcooked or oversalted or whatever." Now, that is not taking care of the spouse. And when you take care of the spouse, I will go now to the third one, maintaining connection with the extended family. So you have extended family, you have connection with the extended family, they can support you, you leverage their support, you accept offers of help, you of course have boundaries and communication, you build meaningful connections. And then now, so yourself, your spouse, and your family, and your extended family, and then now caring for those you serve. So your role as a chaplain is not to solve problems, is it? It's not to solve problems. It is to walk alongside the people you serve during difficult times. Then you be compassionate instead of being a Mr. Fix-It. So you are compassionate. And you are empowering. You try to empower the people who you serve. And you have got to be sensitive to the people you serve, especially the inmates. You have to be compassionate with them, and not just the inmate, because remember that thing I was talking about here called vicarious trauma. So the inmates themselves are traumatized, and they have stories, and I think that the officers also are traumatized, at least vicariously. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. And then supporting colleagues, supporting colleagues, peer support, encouraging chaplains to build a strong support network, and then something like debriefing, advocacy, and engaging in community. So I think that with this, I will stop there. And the thing that I would like to emphasize actually is this, that you don't have a job. You don't have a job. You have a mission. That's what you have. You have a mission. And the one who gave you this mission, gives you what you need to carry out your mission. You have to believe that. He gives you what you need to carry out your mission, but then he also is going to ask for an account. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening.
Madam P.S., I think that was a million bob worth of a speech, isn't it? Even if he's called Bob, I think that is a million bob worth of a speech, of a talk, very motivating, very captivating. I appreciate that very much, and I'm very sure we would like to have more of him, isn't it? Because from what he has presented is just tips of what he has in store. So we look forward, maybe in the future, we will end. And the plot that we have is to do what we are employed to do, and that is what will make us have meaning, have a space in what we do. So thank you very much once again, Mr. Murugu, for your moving talk to us. I'm sure it has benefited not only us, but also the people that we are going to meet in our homes and also in our places of work. Now allow me now to invite the Deputy Commissioner General of Prisons, who is going to take forward the program from there. Welcome, Mr. Kennedy.
Madam P.S., Dr. Salome Biako, it actually gives me great pleasure to represent the department, and in particular the Commissioner General, who would have liked to be with us today, but due to exigencies of duty, he was not able to be with us. Madam P.S., allow me to now convey his message and his regards to you and all the participants. Mmekubali salamu za commissioner? Asanteni. I read, Madam Principal Secretary, State Department for Correction Services, Dr. Salome Biako, our guest speaker, Mr. Murugu, who has taken us through very invaluable insights. And I think I'm even contemplating selling my TV based on, and of course he has also told us why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, isn't it? And not 2 mouths and 1 ear. The Commandant of the Staff Training College, Mr. Senior SCGP, Mr. Angas Masoro, heads of chaplaincy, prisons chaplaincy, all participants, all guests, senior officers, good afternoon. I wish to express my gratitude to the Principal Secretary, State Department for Correction Services, for finding time out of your busy schedule to grace the closing ceremony of this 1-week chaplaincy workshop for 519 chaplaincy personnel comprising of Catholics, Protestants, SDAs, and Muslims. Madam P.S., allow me to convey special thanks and appreciation to the prisons chaplaincy for their immense contribution to the Kenya Prison Service realization of rehabilitation and social integration of all our chaplains, is the knowledge you have acquired, in particular on the Kenya Principal Secretary for Correction Services, to make your remarks, Madam.
Good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to be with you this afternoon to preside over the official closing ceremony of this important prisons chaplaincy workshop. One of you for having been employed to perform this noble duty of coordinating spiritual activities in the various correctional institutions across the country. This is an indication of the level of trust that this government, and by extension the State Department for Correctional Services and the entire department leadership has in you and your capacity to shoulder greater responsibilities. I also note that spiritual services was recently strengthened by recruitment of over 250 spiritual workers in the last 2 years. I wish to remind you that what you are employed to do is not just a job, but a higher calling. To do is not just a job, but a higher calling of transforming offenders in our societies so that they can contribute. The State Department, I note with appreciation that major achievements within the prisons departments have been stepped up through the chaplaincy in many aspects, such as 1. Diligently advising and guiding on spiritual matters in your institutions. 2. Providing reliable leadership role in presiding of worship and worship services. 3. Through spiritual care and psychosocial services and interventions. 9. Sourcing scriptures and inspirations, social religious literature, and enhancing dispatch to inmates, staff, and their families. Last but not the least, manning, vetting, and issuance of permits to visit prisons, as well as ensuring observance of Christian and Muslim and seasonal special events. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot help but acknowledge some of the difficulties you face. First, that of bringing troops to God. This is an onerous task, and I appreciate that you have given it your best. As such, it is of great importance to underscore the great value and expectation that this training workshop is aimed at achieving both in your individual and our collective needs as a department. This is so in order to equip you with the necessary skills for you to offer unrivaled spiritual services to those under your care. This, ladies and gentlemen, was the very basis of this training workshop. The challenges of today's officers and their families are immense, and your role in accompanying officers to cope with the daily stresses cannot be overstated. This does not leave you immune to the same, and so personal care and mental wellness for you is a first priority. Since psychosocial and spiritual support it is essential that you have psychosocial and spiritual support to rejuvenate your work performance. Take your leave days seriously and rest when overwhelmed by work. Retirement is imminent to each one of us. Prepare to exit honorably after a life of diligent service to humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to comment a bit on this training that you have engaged in. I have listened to the overview of the training program keenly, and I have no doubt that it will go a long way in assisting you to address the challenges that our officers and inmates are currently grappling with. Notably, the training tackled financial management and retirement, SGBV and GBV, addictions, team building, role of psychology in spiritual work, countering violent extremism, ecumenism and interreligious dialogue, and sectional masses and services. It is my belief that the training supported by your dedication has laid the foundation for a brighter future in offender management based on spiritual and pro-social support services within the prison environment. Once you go back to your respective areas of deployment, you will be expected to prepare action plans complete with reasonable timelines, incorporating all the learned practices. Having gone through the training package, I am confident that it will give you an edge to be able to tackle fairly complex scenarios as you discharge your duties. You will all agree with me that practically, chaplains as leaders must provide leadership. Leadership is about influence. Chaplains' conduct must be beyond reproach. Chaplains are expected to do their best. And lastly, unity is essential, for where there is unity, God commands his blessings. Good people, the outcome of any training can best be measured through change in behavior and attitude of the learner. Such behavior and attitude of the learner remains constant when we could easily conclude that learning did not take. If such behavior and attitude of the learner remains the same, then we could easily conclude that the learning did not take place. I want to believe that learning took place, and therefore we look forward to a marked change in the way you will be performing your duties. In conclusion, I wish to express my deepest and most sincere gratitude to the Commissioner General of Prisons and the Commandant Prison Staff Training College for agreeing to host this training workshop here. I am glad that everything went as planned and that all topics in the training program were covered. Finally, allow me to congratulate the brains that came up with this idea, led by Father Peter Kimani and Madam Jane Kiri, the Director of Offender Rehabilitation and Welfare, and the very valuable speakers, for it has given the officers an undertaking this training an opportunity to experience sharing. I want to say a few things as a side remark, because sometimes Africa and indeed the world can be realized. Why is that? Because this is teamwork. I cannot master. We can, and it culminated with the Correctional Service Week that we held last year in November. It is very, very important that we are all reading from the same page and that we are all speaking one language. And the outcome of our had was so positive that I deemed it fit that we have another one this year to create a roadmap for 2024, and we did it on the 2nd of February. But because we cannot leave anyone behind, I thought it is essential that we also have chaplains. Why is that? Because your work is very, very, very important. It is so important. People you have to handle who are both inmates and officers, it is not only a mission, it is a calling. Not everybody can do what you do. It's very difficult to deal with a difficult child. It is a tall order. That's a very difficult task. And then you, as the mediators, as the psychologist, you have to on that task. I appreciate also point out to you that wherever God has put you, He has asked that you cannot be able to carry out. Let that be the basis for your work. That wherever God has put you, He will give you sufficient grace and good, and thirdly, for personal fulfillment. It is not the number of years that you will have worked in this state department matters. That is not what really matters. Friends, there is a book called P.S.T.C. They say wherever Christ, and it alludes to the Bible, resurrections, He left curing of the sick and the deaf heard. He passed, him so and so passed by. The people were much better than they would otherwise have been. Because you, Pastor so and so, passed by and remained with them for that period of time, you're meeting people you should not have to meet and you have no business meeting. And conversely, you are avoiding or you are unable to do things that you ought to be doing and not meeting people, and doing things you ought, and not doing things you ought to have been doing. So that daily direction, every single day, asking God, what should I do today? How should I do it? Essential. It's very essential. Then number two, it is very essential that every year, and that is why I thought this is a very good idea, that we don't leave you out. Every year, tunakuwa na kongomano kama hili. Because it is essential that you take stock of what you're doing. Yeah? We don't just move, like the children of Israel in the desert, a journey that should have taken 12 days, took 40 years. They're just moving. Eh? We need to come back, rest, be still, reflect, reconnaissance. It's called reconnaissance. We reflect on what we have been doing. We think, what did we do well? What did we not do well? What can we do better next time? And if we don't do that, it's called resting, recharging, reconnecting, reflecting, and thereafter resolving. Because we need to come up with resolutions. It would be very sad that you have spent these 4 or 5 days here and you have no individual resolutions. Because what is most important is not so much collective resolutions, but the individual resolutions. What shall I go back and do better? How will I be better organized? How will I be consistent? Because good works is not a matter of one-off, you know, like lightning or like a shooting star or like fireworks. It is what we do day in, day out until the 12 months are over. For the 365 days of good example, 365 days of beginning again and again and again. 365 days of order. And I know because you have the grace of state and because you are men and women of God, that is your designation, I always think that that is a very onerous task that you have been given. Because then you're measured at a higher standard than the rest of us. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. Because we need role models. You're shepherds of the people. And being shepherds of the people, you are leaders. But being a leader is not lording over anybody, but rather taking care of those you have been put in charge of. And I have no doubt you are equal and up to the task. You are equal and up to the task. And that is why you have found it important to come for this workshop. And so when I think about it, I say that not only is your work to rehabilitate and reform and thereafter reintegrate other people, I will reiterate what Bob has said. You also need to take care of yourself. In this year, when we have said that the theme of this year is mental health and wellness, that begins with you and I. It begins with you and I, that you and I must really take good care of our mental health and reflect every day, what is this that I am doing that is not aiding my mental health wellness? Is it what I eat? Is it what I say? Is it what I watch? Is it the company that I keep? Does it align with my mission as a man or woman of God? Does it align? Because we do not want to be accused like the Pharisees. Do what they tell you, but not what does. Do what they tell you. Because they steal the widow's food, they do this, they do that. They are not a good example in the family. They are the ones who are drunk more than the rest of us. Like that. We don't want any of you to be in that category of accusation. So take good care of yourself. It is okay not to be okay. Go for help. All of us need therapy. I always tell God that I'm very, and it is not an issue of discrimination whatsoever because I have never been in another different setting. I've always grown up as a Catholic, and I am sure in the Protestant church, in SDA, and in the Muslim, there exist similar structures. And in my structure, there is spiritual direction by a priest. And I must say, I have thoroughly been privileged to have access to that spiritual direction from a priest, a trusted priest, who takes care of my spiritual welfare as well as my psychological welfare. Why is this? Because some of this party who is discreet, and of course, he is under oath of non-disclosure. He cannot disclose what I tell him. All of us need this. Because you cannot walk in this life alone. You cannot. You will fall again and again. Because the good book says a just man falls 7 times. I cannot lay claim to being just. So therefore, I expect that I fall many more times than that. And that spiritual direction is very helpful to direct me in the correct path. Take good care of yourselves. Take very, very good care of yourself because your tasks are very onerous. And in this regard, besides the mental wellness, take good care of your finances. I know you had a talk in this, but I've been here for the last now almost going 8 months, and I have seen from what comes to my desk, I have seen this is a very serious problem that we are having in this State Department. Financial mismanagement of our resources, of our salaries. And that is causing enormous strain and stress in our families, in ourselves. And that is why one of the main reasons that caused us to be rated as the highest, as having the highest incidences of indiscipline. When I talked to the Commissioner General, he explained to me, it is not so much indiscipline or being abusive or not coping with one another, but it was because of desertion. Why? Because these people are so stressed, their pay slips are closer to 0 than to 100, because they have so many debts, and so they do not see the need of coming to work if at the end of the month you're getting a very low salary of 1,000 shillings or 500 shillings, and we are addressing that with the Commissioner. Take good care of your finances. Please recognize that in this life you're not in competition with anyone. You're not in competition with anyone. It is very essential that we accept ourselves as we are. Run your own race, mind your own business. Don't compare yourself with others, because you cannot catch up with the rest. You cannot. If I said I want to be, the more we will see that the race we have is against ourselves. It's a race of me and myself a day. And that is why it is essential that every day we take time out. And I can tell you, sometimes I wonder, how come I have zero social life? And that is the truth. Even on a weekend, I'm busy doing work that is somewhat much higher than a rental house. And you don't need a lot of money, of 7%. Then, wherever you are, invest enough so that the interest that comes back to you is equivalent to that 50,000 per month. We all can do it. What does that take? That takes absolute razor focus. That's number one. Number two, the self-love that Bob talked about. Begin with yourself. Begin with yourself. The first tenet of financial freedom is paying yourself. Before you pay that rent, before you pay that school fees, before you, then we can free our minds and our hearts to advancing the kingdom. Not competing, not comparing, not complaining. It's advancing the kingdom of God. That is what you shall be judged with. And we don't have a lot of time, because considering and assuming that all of us are until you're 75, 75 minus your current age. So we don't have time. We don't have time to waste with or conflict or division or dissension. Its roots intertwine with it is the unity. Move faster to State Department, and you're an essential cog to the effectiveness of this State of God. You are like you have the grace of state. It doesn't mean that you cannot fail, because you're also human like the rest of us. But I think because you have the grace of state, you can tap into it more. You can tap into it more. The other issue that I think I wanted to address is the issues you have raised and I have taken note of. The gaps in the service, the establishment of the Chaplaincy Directorate. I am glad amongst yourself about it, and the organizational structure and the levels of employment, of stagnation at all cadres, the management of having a senior management course for the senior officers in this institution, facilitation of chaplains when attending workshops, recruitment of additional staff due to retirement, lack of adequate infrastructure, including offices and counseling rooms, and I believe also vehicles. The need for a risk allowance for the civilian staff, especially you, and having opportunities for growth. I will look into that. I will discuss with the Commissioner General, and we will see which we can implement. I think that is very essential today. The scheme of service for chaplaincy staff. I think that is very essential. I have committed to read it and to understand it. So I wish to thank you all for making time to come. You raised, and the commandant has brought them to my attention. I think we will deal with them. The issues that you have raised on logistics, we will deal with the leadership. I want us to be doing this every year. I want us to really see the great value of what we do. In that regard, I will encourage you to keep learning. There are many courses on psychology. Now, it is not enough to say you're a pastor. You need to read. You need to listen to psychology issues, dealing with psychosocial issues. Don't rest on your laurels. I encourage you, keep learning, keep seeing. And there are very many free audiobooks on YouTube. Take advantage. When you're mobile, when you're traveling from here to Mandera, listen to a few books, listen to a few classes, listen to a few lessons, so that you can keep improving. Let it not be said about any of us that when we come to 22nd of October, when we shall have our next correctional service week, that you are stagnant, that you are where you are today. At least read one book before that time. Watch one class before that time. Go for one course before that time. Let's keep improving. We are Kenyans. We have tremendous capacity. Because over time we have had the hardest curriculum. I think many of you went through 844 and before then the 743. Globally, that was one of the hardest curriculum. What does that mean? Our minds have enormous capacity to gain knowledge and to imbue more knowledge. So don't say, I'm too old to learn. No, let it be spoken of you that he died, she died standing. She died whilst she was in action. Like that soldier on the field, she died while she was in action. And with those few remarks, I want to thank you again for coming to Nairobi and for taking your time off your very busy schedules to join us here. Let us hope we shall see you again, inshallah, next year. God bless you, and God bless the work of your hands.
Let's take our seats a little bit. Let's take our seats. I think the words from Madam P.S. This afternoon, I'm sure for most of us, it's the first time to encounter Madam P.S. And I think we have heard from her own mouth how passionate and how committed and how visionary she is about the focus that we are supposed to take and the route that we are supposed to take as intellectually, with an example of Bob, who says to us, has inspired us, that as a teacher, now he's a clinical psychologist. We could as well be chaplains, catechists, kind of a skill as we deal with the people that we have. So, Madam P.S., thank you very much, and we look forward to supporting you and to ensuring that the vision and the mission that you have for the correctional service, particularly let it be at the core center of our lives. And with those remarks, I want to call upon Reverend Stephen Ngeno to come and pass a vote of thanks. And then thereafter, we shall ask one of the Malims to close the prayer, and then we shall have the national anthem. Reverend Ngeno.
Madam P.S., Correctional Services, Dr. Salome Beako, DCGP, Mr. Kennedy Aluda, guest speaker of the day, Commandant here with us. May I take this opportunity and may God bless you in a big way. You talked to us and we missed to see the many times we see government officials talk to people. But we hear you and we see somebody who is so passionate, so loving, and so caring. And somebody we can reach to so easily and express ourselves to. You have also given us some wonderful promises that we have never also received before, that there's an assurance for us to connect again next year. Discouraging, but by your words, we are nearly sure together. Department of Correctional Services, so that out of your presence, may we be able to tap more from you and be refreshed and renewed to serve. May I also take this opportunity to be received by the Commandant who is here with us, and want to say thank you, Commissioner, about to go on retirement. So you can imagine running in the field and doing many other things with a lot of pressure we could not have managed. But may I also appreciate those who developed the lessons that we went through for giving with us, to give us many officers who guided us through in the sessions that we had, and they were so friends and women of God. All enjoyed in our stay here. And men serving would be so that we can better this department and become the best department that you will enjoy. May God bless you so much and do you good as you continue to guide us in this state department. May God bless each and every one of us. Asante. Thank you.
Very well expressed vote of thanks. Madam PS, as we are coming to the end of our session, there is a request that maybe we could, because these people, as most of us here have met you for the first time, that you could have a group photo with them as per the regions at the Commandant Square. You can study and take one. Okay. Okay, one big photo. Okay. And just before the photo, maybe we could have a closing prayer from Marim. And Bob, I've been requested that you share your notes. So I'll give you my number so that we can be able to send them to them. So Marim, kindly. We could be upstanding for the closing prayer.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Kila sifa njema zinakustahiki wewe Mwenyezi Mungu, mwingi wa rehema, mwenye kurehemu. Mwenyezi Mungu uliyetupa majukumu, uliyetuweka uhai katika ulimwengu huu, ukatupa majukumu. Mwenyezi Mungu, tunakuomba Mwenyezi Mungu ambaye kwamba unapaswa kuombwa. Tunaomba amani katika nchi yetu, tunaomba utulivu katika nchi yetu, tunaomba maendeleo katika nchi yetu. Mwenyezi Mungu, wewe ndiye ambaye kwamba umepea kila moja uongozi katika nyumba, uongozi katika nchi, uongozi katika wizara. Mwenyezi Mungu, tunakuomba viongozi wote Mwenyezi Mungu wajalie hikma, wajalie uwezo na urahisishie mambo yao katika kila jambo ambao wanafanya. Mwenyezi Mungu, Mwenyezi Mungu, tunaombea PS wetu Salome. Mwenyezi Mungu, umpatie nguvu na uwezo katika mambo yake. Mwenyezi Mungu, tunaombea commissioner wetu mzee wa Rioba. Mwenyezi Mungu, mwezeshe kuweza kuwa na nguvu na hikma katika kila jambo ambayo anafanya. Mwenyezi Mungu, Mwenyezi Mungu, tunaomba, tunakuomba, tukiinua mkono yetu, kinamisha nyuso zetu kuelekea wewe peke yako ambao unafaa kuelekewa. Kuna majukumu ambayo kwamba Mwenyezi Mungu, katika wengi ambayo kwamba hawana majukumu umetupa. Kuna majukumu ambayo kwamba Mwenyezi Mungu ni magumu na wewe peke yako ndio unaweza. Mwenyezi Mungu, turahisishie majukumu ambayo yako mbele yetu, hasa ya kuweza kuwarekebisha wale ambao kwamba wako chini yetu, hasa kuwaelekeza wale ambao kwamba wako chini yetu. Mwenyezi Mungu wafungwa, Mwenyezi Mungu wapatie subira na waweze kuwa ni wenye kurekebika. Mwenyezi Mungu, wewe ambaye kwamba unafaa kuombwa. Mwenyezi Mungu, kuna staff ambayo kwamba na mafamilia ambayo kwamba wamejitolelea kufanya kazi hii. Mwenyezi Mungu, wewe ndiye peke yake unaweza kuwatuza, wewe peke yake ndiye nayo. Wa sallallahu ala khairu khalqi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Subhanaka wa bihamdi ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Amin.
Band, national anthem.